Hey, good morning, everybody. Here we are, Tuesday at 10:30 in Los Angeles. This weather has gotten nice again. Oh my gosh, that's the one thing I love about Los Angeles above anything else is that typically the weather here is really nice. Um, Whereas when I used to live in Northern California, it would get so cold, at least for me. I know you guys on the East Coast and way up in Canada are like, oh, she thinks that's cold. But anyway, so today I have the honor and the pleasure to introduce to you guys and interview Justin Womack. Justin and I have met each other, I don't know, about a year and a half ago,
Sounds about
and
right.
we wind up running in similar circles. um, we've seen each other at networking events and have connected with each other. And Justin has some business ventures that were very interesting to me that I joined in on, that I thought were worthy of spending my money. And Justin has taught me a lot. And so when I was thinking about who do I interview next, I thought of Justin, and again, I have the honor of being able to interview him today. Justin is a podcaster. He does a lot of things to help businesses. He's an Infusionsoft specialist, and he does a lot of behind the scenes. He works with businesses to build ClickFunnels and other kinds of things, affiliate marketing programs, or build their affiliate marketing into their websites and things like that. But today we're going to be talking about podcasting because he and his friends do a podcast called the Marketing Geeks, and they have found quite a bit of success, and are starting to show other businesses how they too can podcast. So, Justin, why don't you give us a few minutes about yourself and your background, and let's kick this thing off.
Sure. Thanks for the brief intro there, Gabriella. Yes, my name is Justin Womack, and I am running a podcast called Marketing Geeks. I'm also starting a podcast on Banner Season right now that's running the Banner Season podcast. So I have a couple podcasts that are up on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Spreaker, just about everywhere you can name, Stitcher. So that's one of my avenues is I help business owners get their podcasts on iTunes, get them online. I find that a lot of people just have trouble figuring out the basic tech behind it. So I offer a service that is kind of just like done for you. So you don't have to put in, the 8 hours it takes to learn how to do it yourself. I think anybody can learn to create their podcast themselves. It's just about, do you want to spend the time or do you want to save time? So really that's what I found is it's cutting down the learning curve. So it's been interesting. I'll talk more about podcasting as we go forward here, but some of the other things I'm involved with are I'm an Infusionsoft certified partner. The company is now called, it's Infusionsoft by Keep, where they have a Keep program as well. So they've rebranded. So the company is no longer Infusionsoft, and now called Keep, Keap. Everything is being rebranded right now. So that's the company I'm a certified partner for. I do a lot of work with ClickFunnels. I'm an email copywriter. I am a Fiverr Pro, and I am a keynote speaker.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, so I'm on Fiverr as a Fiverr Pro. I've done quite well there, actually. So that surprisingly, when I got recruited for that, I didn't think much of it, but it actually has been a significant chunk of income over the last year. And then I'm a member of Casey Eberhardt's Mastermind, along with you.
I don't think we're going to have time to get into the whole conversation about Fiverr. So I want to talk to you about setting up another interview in another month or two when I have a slot open that we can focus solely on Fiverr, because that site is awesome.
It is awesome it's awesome as a seller, or it's awesome as a buyer. Because if you're a business owner, there's a lot of tasks that you can outsource for a reasonable amount of money. And you can make money by, selling something, going to Fiverr, having the work done. And usually you'll probably have to do a few revisions. It might not be perfect, but you'll get most of the work done on Fiverr, and then you revise a few things and you're all set.
Yeah, actually I did a short Facebook Live a few weeks back when I asked people to put their logos in, and I had about 8 or 10 people that said, I don't have a logo, and I made the logo for this particular group using somebody on Fiverr. And so I did a whole little 10-minute sharing the screen, showing people how to go and find people on Fiverr. But I want to talk to you about podcasting today. And we're going to do another interview that we're going to dedicate just to Fiverr probably in April, because I don't have any slots open until April. So tell me about podcasting. How do you coach people on how to start their own podcast? And, there's lots of things out there that you could teach people. But I know that right now, this is your primary thing that you're coaching people on. Why are you focusing? What's so great about podcasting over other mediums?
Yeah, well, even though podcasting has become more popular over the last few years, it's still in its infancy. So I see it as an emerging trend, and it's still a good time to get in on it. Whereas a lot of things, there's a lot of avenues out there that are more saturated. Like YouTube is now very saturated. It's tough to get YouTube views. It's tough to establish a YouTube brand at this point. It's possible, but it's tough.
Right.
Podcasting is still pretty young. It's still developing massively, and I see a huge, huge market for it going forward, especially because it's so young in terms of the ads platform that it's involved with. That's still going to be growing and growing. If you read in the news, Spotify acquired 3 different podcasting hosting platforms last week.
Really?
So Spotify is about to get into the podcasting game big. So I think,
hey guys, if you did not know that, and if you were to just watch this one little piece of this interview, there is your massive value for today. Get yourself on podcasts and get yourself set up with Spotify. Keep going, Justin.
Yeah, so Spotify, I think, will be a major player in podcasting going forward. They're going to compete with iTunes. But the big 3 are really Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. Those are the big 3 right now that you want to get your podcast onto so that you're able to be on Androids and iPhones. Because the thing with podcasting, too, is that the audience, the metrics show that the audience is more affluent than most other audiences out there. In fact, podcast audiences tend to make more money. They tend to have higher paying jobs, and people tend to listen longer. And part of that is because it's convenient. If you're watching a video, you can't, until we get self-driving cars, you can't really watch a video and drive. But you can listen to a podcast. You can take it with you when you're exercising on an elliptical or a treadmill.
Right.
You could take it with you on a walk. So people are listening to podcasts, and you can even sleep with it in bed if you want. You can have it in your ears as you're going to sleep. So people are listening to podcasts longer. So you have a longer duration with your audience. You're you have a direct channel to speak with them, and the medium is growing.
Wow, that is incredibly interesting. Like, seriously, I knew some of that, but you just enlightened me with all of that. So tell us, please, how do you find success with a podcast? Give us some tips, and how do you build an audience?
Yeah, well, I mean, it starts with getting yourself online. If you're overthinking it, that's number one problem right there. Is don't get in your own way and overthink things. You got to get your podcast out there. General rule of thumb is that your first podcast is going to suck no matter what. So just go and do it. Get it over with. Don't be embarrassed by it. Just go out there and create content. I think most people shoot themselves in the foot by, again, they overthink things. They don't take action. If you don't take action, nothing happens. Even if you create the perfect podcast, but it takes you a year, you'll be more effective by creating 20 podcasts over that year instead of waiting a year to create a perfect podcast. And you'll have a smaller audience too because you waited that long. So the things with podcasting to get an audience, there's SEO involved. So search engine optimization is a big part of podcasting if you're not paying attention to it. And that is the way you label your audio files, the way you label your show title, the way you label your episode titles, all the way to things like your author tag, like the different terms that you're putting into into every single part of your submission for a podcast are searchable in platforms like iTunes and Google Play and Spotify. So you want to be able to be found. So if I'm a business podcast or a marketing podcast, I want somebody that types in marketing in iTunes to find my podcast. And so if you go to iTunes, you type in marketing, we're in the top 10. We're not number 1, but we're in the top 10. And if you type in marketing and scroll over, we'll show up there. If you actually search on your Apple Podcast app on your phone, I think we're like number 2. But on a desktop, on iTunes, we're like in the top 10. But on a Apple Podcasts, where I think we're number 2 if you search marketing. So that's
So hey guys, I think that Justin has given us a ton of value today, and I know that most of us don't really know how to go do all the labeling and the tagging that he just described. So if you're finding value in what Justin has to say today, drop a comment below, and I will make sure that you have an opportunity to have a discovery call or an assessment with Justin and see how he can help you with your podcast to see if you're a great coaching candidate with him. Hey, tell me, Justin, once somebody gets their podcast up and running, how do we monetize?
There's several ways to monetize it. The most common that you've heard about is advertising. So you could sell advertising on your podcast. Some of the hosting platforms out there will connect you directly with advertisers. A lot of them have advertising programs that will help you to find the advertisers. The way they pay out is they pay out per 1,000 listeners. So they have a metric called CPM. That stands for cost per 1,000, with M being the Roman numeral for 1,000. I think that's what it means. So usually you'll see things like $10, $15, $25 CPM, which means every 1,000 listeners you make $10 or you make $25, depending on the CPM that you're being paid per ad. And that's when they listen to the ad. So 1,000 listeners that hear the ad, that's how you get paid. Other ways, though, I mean, you can monetize the podcast in several different ways. You can have a model where you are selling your own products on the podcast. And if you're doing a direct sales model that way. You could bring on guests on the show and make affiliate commission off them making offers on the show. Some people create their podcasts with the idea being in mind that you're going to take your ideal customer and you want to bring them on as a guest on your show. And so you're attracting your ideal customer avatar and you're interviewing them on the show with the intention that after the show, you'll be able to talk about your products and services and introduce them to you and at least get them familiar with you and your brand and potentially get clients from them being guests on the show. So that's another model. And the other thing is that you're building your authority as a influencer, as a thought leader in the community. So by building your authority, you're more likely to get featured on speaking gigs. You're more likely to get featured on interviews. People are more interested in communicating with you, and you're positioning yourself as an easier sell. The more influence you have or authority you have, the more someone's likely to buy from you also.
Speaking of influence and authority, I know that you have a podcast that is rapidly growing in viewer and listenership, and it's called The Marketing Geeks. We will make sure to post the links below to the, I think you mentioned the top 3 places where people can get access to The Marketing Geeks. And I know that you and your partner or partners, sometimes you have a third person hosting the show, have put yourself in a space of being influencers. So tell us what you've learned since you've been hosting the Marketing Geeks. And when did you start it and why did you start it?
Well, we started it in June of last year. And we had been wanting to start a podcast for quite a while. And it was interesting because we started it almost like a test. And then we just kept doing it and kept doing it and kept doing it. And that's kind of how I think a lot of things go in my business is like we tend to just dive right in. So we didn't do a ton of research and we kind of jumped into this thing. I had been editing I had been running the back end of another podcast for quite a while though. So I had learned I had learned the back end of podcast editing before hosting my own show. So I did know a fair amount about it. But as I started hosting my own show, I learned things like, ways of structuring the show to keep audience engagement, like how the advertising really works, like how to insert ads into the episode, like where they're most effective, or how that whole platform of ads combined with podcasting works. I've had people reach out to me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on all these different avenues that are just random people. That are like, oh, I heard you on the show. I love the show. And it's really cool. And a few of them we brought on as guests on the show. So we're building our network also. We have people donating to the show. That's another way of making money. Actually, I didn't mention is you can actually have people that donate to the show. And the way that we inspire them to do that is that we do webinars. So anyone that listens to the show that we do a live webinar. I say quarterly. We were doing a monthly, but right now I'll say the quarterly. We do a live webinar. They're free to everybody that listens when they're live. After they're live, we have the recordings. If you're a donor, you get access to the recordings all the way from the beginning. So anyone that donates $5 or more per month to the show gets access to those recordings. And that's another way of kind of monetizing your podcast. We don't have a ton of donors, but we have several. And it's more of like, it's kind of a cool thing. And it has, so they're like brand ambassadors, and we kind of highlight them on the show and take care of them and try to make them feel special too.
Nice. Yeah. So if somebody wants to donate $5 a month or more, if I recall correctly, I looked the other day, you have 34, 35 episodes and growing. You will mention them throughout the show or as you go along, and and give them, highlight them, give them additional street cred.
Yeah, the other thing that's cool though is that as the show grows in popularity, we have people reaching out to us wanting to be guests on the show. And some of them have been pretty well-known names. I mean, not well-known like household names, but well-known in the marketing community names. So
yeah, I saw the name of somebody that I thought it was you that had interviewed a lady that's on Facebook that has over 100,000 followers in her group. So I know you guys are rocking it.
Yeah, we're bringing on a lot of cool names. We're going to have a filmmaker on the show, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. Nice. Which should be pretty cool. If we lock that down, we're negotiating it right now. But yeah, I'm getting introduced to people that I wouldn't otherwise be introduced to also. So again, like expanding your network with high influence people. So there's a lot of fringe benefits too from having a podcast. Plus, it's great for your bio. So when I'm being introduced from stage, it's also like not only am I a marketing guy, but I'm also a podcast host. It's a prestige builder. So there's value in that. And we've gotten our podcast into the rankings on iTunes. So we can also say that we have a top ranked iTunes podcast. At one point, for like a split second, we hit #1 in the management and marketing category. So I have a screenshot. I have a screenshot of that. But so that's awesome. Another thing. We could claim to be a #1 podcast, even though it lasted for like a split second.
So guys, again, if you're finding value in what Justin is sharing today, please drop a comment below. We will add links for the podcast and for the opportunity to reach out to Justin and see if there's some guidance, if you can do a discovery or a needs call with him to see if you're a good fit for his coaching. I tell you that he's been amazing, and I'm so blessed to be part of his circle, that he's helped me out with a few things that has really helped move the needle for me. And he is definitely somebody that you want to talk to. So can you give us just what is your favorite piece of advice for people that are just starting out in a business, particularly the people in this space are network marketing, direct sales, and coaches and sales related, what they can do to move their needle to be more successful?
Well, I kind of already said it. I think it's imperfect action. I think that's the #1 thing.
That's a great way of saying it.
Yeah, take imperfect action, because I'll take an action taker any day over somebody that wants to be a perfectionist. In fact, one of my mentors will tell me that perfectionism is actually the lowest standard that humans can hold for themselves, because it shouldn't be thought of as a high standard, because it leads to just procrastination and inaction. And that's a low standard to hold for yourself. If you're not taking action, you're not growing. You can't, there's a book out there called You Can't Learn to Ride a Bike from a Seminar. I think it's by the Sandler sales team. And it's true. It's true. If you're not taking action, you're not able to learn certain skills. You can't, bench 300 pounds by reading a book. You have to go into the weight room and lift and lift and lift and slowly build and build and build to it. And I think that there's a lot of things in life that people want to skip the work and get right into the success. But the reality is it doesn't come like that. So.
Right. Absolutely. You're
perfect action, and then get over well, I mean, I say this, there's more work that needs to be done on this, but get over your fears, because there's a lot of people are self-conscious about getting on Facebook. They're self-conscious about doing live video. They're self-conscious about putting themselves out there, putting their personal profile out on social media. Yeah, me too, even. But the reality is that if you don't do it, you're only hurting yourself. You're only limiting your possibilities. And the odds are, if you don't do it, you're not going to be successful. So there is personal growth work that comes with that. I don't necessarily teach personal growth work, but there are plenty of great coaches out there that do. I've done a lot of it myself. I've worked on myself quite a bit because I tend to be more introverted in nature. I can talk on a camera, I can talk on a stage, but when I tend to be more introverted. That's just the reality. So it takes some self-work. Yeah.
That's funny. I'm totally opposite. I'm such an extrovert, but the minute you put me on stage or in front of a camera, I get very anxious.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'm the opposite. I'm kind of weird that way. Like I'm actually more comfortable on stage than I am in like a small group of people sometimes.
That's so funny. I'm totally opposite, but it's interesting because I was talking to somebody about that yesterday. How do you guide people so how do you guide people and coach them with that stuff?
Well, I don't necessarily, again, that's personal growth work. So I mean, I've done it myself. I've gone through like neuro-linguistic programming, NLP training. There's a speaker training I've gone through that really helped me move the needle in that regard. And I actually, one of my mentors, his name is Matt Brawning. He's also now a client of mine. But I started as a client of his in the personal growth space, and he's helped me tremendously to get over a lot of that stuff. So.
Nice.
So we've helped each other. So I help him with marketing. He helps me with personal growth, things like that.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're getting close to the end of this interview. I know I've mentioned a few times, but can you please tell our viewers what you have to offer today? The initial discovery. Explain that to us, please.
Yeah. So I could do a 15-minute call, an initial discovery call with anyone that's interested in it. We can kind of go over what your goals are, and if you're interested in the podcasting market, for instance. I mean, if you're interested in other things, we can have a call as well, like email copywriting or email marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, those are the two things I'd have a call about, though, would be podcasting or email marketing. We can have a call. I will discuss what your goals are with your email campaign or your podcast. Where you are now, because some people might have a podcast, but they want to grow the podcast and they want to take the next steps there, or they are on step 0 and they just want to know, like, what equipment do I need? How long are the shows supposed to be? What, how do I name my shows? Where do I find the right hosting platform? Like all that. So we can do that. So I sell consulting sessions where we could sit down for an hour. And within about an hour, I could get you set up and running on iTunes. If we could split it up in like 2 half-hour calls, really. So like part one is me giving you the task, what you need to do. Once they're done, part 2 is working with you to get it all set up. So it doesn't take long to get your podcast live, but there's a few things you're going to need. You're going to need at least 1 episode recorded. You're going to need cover art. And that's really about it. And then you're just going to need to know, like, what's your title going to be, what's your description going to be, your bio. That's about all you're going to need, and we can get you running.
And then in that consulting space where they're actually working with you and you're coaching them, you can show them how or do for them the tagging and the
Usually we do like a Zoom call, so I'll do it either for you or with you on the call. Mm-hmm. So I'll do it like Zoom, so I can share my screen and do it for you.
Awesome. All right, so we have basically about a minute left. If there's anything else that you want to share, I don't know if you want to share about the business venture that you and I are in together, or if there's anything else you want to share, and then we're going to wrap up this interview.
Sure. I mentioned earlier that I also run a podcast called the Banner Season Podcast because I am involved with Banner Season. Gabriella and I are both referral partners, and we're deeply involved in the success of Banner Season, and it's an amazing platform. So if you're any business owner out there and you want to show your clients that you value them, there's nothing more powerful than sending out a personalized gift and card. Statistically speaking, there's a term called premiums, which means that you're adding extras to your offer when you're offering something. Like, it could be a consulting package, it could be anything that you're offering a premium with it. So if you are to add a premium, such as like a gift, like a personalized mug with any package that you sell online, especially for like a membership package, like a digital membership program, statistically, members are more likely to stay longer if they get a tangible item in the mail along with like a digital membership course. So statistically, you're likely to get people to stay for longer. I think the average membership site keeps people for about 2 to 3 months. But it gets up to like 6 months if you send out like a physical item with the membership.
Wow.
And that doesn't even,
Wow.
it could just be a letter too.
Yep.
I think, yeah. So anything that you send is going to increases the value because you have that, you hit the tactile sense because they have something physical that goes with it, and it just feels a little bit more special that way. So something to keep in mind. So it is important to be connecting with your audience on all levels, especially your clients. So
yeah, for sure. All right. Well, Justin, thank you so much for agreeing to this interview today. Like I said, I am honored, and it has been my pleasure to talk to you today and share your awesome, vast wisdom with our audience. And with that, we're going to say bye. Bye, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabriella. Bye.